Recently, decadent literature has become popular among young people in China. As the saying goes, endure the hardest hardships to serve the people at the top. Work one job and hate one job, there are 360 jobs, and you curse each one. A man sets out from his hometown with great ambitions, only to end up working the night shift at an electronics factory. If even those more outstanding than me are striving hard, what's the point of my efforts? When the car reaches the mountain, there is no road. When the boat reaches the bridge, it naturally sinks. Losing at the starting line is better than losing at the finish line, at least you won't be exhausted from running the whole way. If there are no dreams, wouldn't that be as carefree as it gets? Opportunities are always reserved for those who are prepared, but if there are no opportunities, what's the use of preparation? Being learned without thinking is futile, thinking without learning is relaxing. If justice can be late, why can't I be late? Failure is the mother of success, but success disowns all relatives. Effort doesn't necessarily lead to success, but not making an effort definitely leads to an easy life. Suffering first doesn't guarantee sweetness later, but enjoying first is definitely sweet. If in your youth you only know how to indulge in pleasure, when you get old, you'll find there's really nothing to regret. Ignore the words of the elderly, and enjoy a happy year. In any country, young people who work regular hours every day, complete an 8-hour workday, have average intelligence, no bad habits, and spend their free time listening to music, watching movies, hanging out with friends, and developing hobbies, while having their own life and income, are the backbone of society and role models for others. However, in China, if young people do not buy a house, do not buy a car, and do not get married, they are seen as lazy and unambitious. Sometimes, young people gathering for a meal are criticized for not being serious about life, and even looking at their phone on the subway is considered a sign of not taking life seriously. Many friends say they want to lie flat, but in reality, they just want a job that doesn't require overtime and gives them weekends off. They originally wanted to experience life, but now feel like cold machines. Many young people in their 20s in China are choosing to lie flat, and the reasons are as follows. First, they have no direction for their efforts. Many in the generation born in the 80s worked hard for mortgages, car loans, jobs, raising children, and for social status. But now, more people don't care about social status. 20-year-olds care even less. If their family has a house, fine, if not, they feel they'll never afford one. So why strive? They lack clear goals, ideals, and value systems. This is a core issue. Second, this generation has different views about the future and doesn't want to follow in their parents' footsteps. They want to live their own lives. Those in their 20s who want to lie flat often have an extremely independent spirit. They don't care what others say, insist on being themselves, and have independent thinking abilities. Compared to those born in the 70s and 80s, these young people are more aware of why they live and don't want to work just to have children, buy a house, and buy a car. Third, there are too few real opportunities and positions for young people to strive for. Many jobs are routine and mechanized, and these young people, who grew up with modern technology and use intelligent tools to solve problems, find it hard to adapt to basic jobs. The lack of psychological guidance and support makes it difficult for them to find motivation to strive. Fourth, this generation has been pampered from a young age and has not experienced real hardship. The generation born in the 80s and 70s worked hard to provide their children with a comfortable life, so those born in the 90s and 2000s have not suffered and have not faced setbacks, making it easier for them to choose to lie flat. They have been enjoying life from a young age and are unwilling to face difficulties and challenges. Lastly, this generation feels that their efforts do not match their rewards and that their hard work yields diminishing returns. If you don't have a strong background or support, it is difficult to achieve significant development through your own efforts alone. The competition is too intense, and the barriers are too high. Relying solely on personal effort cannot overcome these obstacles. In the end, you may end up exhausted and sick, making it not worth the effort. Thus, they are unwilling to keep striving.
Nowadays, in our rural areas, young singles really can't afford to get married. Many parents in the countryside have even come to terms with this reality and no longer pressure their children to find a partner and get married. They believe that instead of forcing themselves and their children for the sake of carrying on the family line, it's better to let it go. Many young people in rural areas have no hope for marriage and have already started to adopt a laid-back attitude. There's an elder in our village who has 2 sons. The elder one is 31 years old, and the younger one is 28. In ancient times, they would have already established their own families at this age, but the elder son is still not married. The father has also come to terms with it. The family's financial situation is average. If they were to get married, both sons would need to buy cars and houses, and they would need to provide dowries, which is a huge financial burden. They simply can't afford it. Moreover, the dowry has to be kept within 100,000 yuan. Otherwise, even if they sell everything they have, they wouldn't be able to solve the marriage problem for both sons. If they help one son, what about the other? If they don't help, they would be accused of being biased. If they do help, can they really manage? So, many elderly people have realized that it's better to save the money for their own retirement. As the saying goes, children have their own blessings. They don't interfere anymore. The children are adults now, and their future depends on their own abilities. The parents have done their best. However, some parents are very anxious. They feel that if their sons don't get married because they can't afford a house, a car, or a dowry, they are to blame for ruining their children's lives. You see, these parents live a very stressful life. This is the dilemma of many rural parents. In fact, marriage should follow its natural course. There's no point in being anxious. Especially for rural parents, even if they have a house in the village, it doesn't appeal to people. They must have a house in the city. Previously, young women would accept a down payment for a house in the city. Now, they require the full payment and also want their names added to the property deed. In our area, the cost of getting married, including the dowry, has to be within 100,000 yuan. Along with a house in the city, renovation costs, and various wedding expenses, even a rough estimate comes to at least 600,000 to 700,000 yuan, totaling over $1 million yuan. How can rural parents afford this? Therefore, in the current marriage market, rural people simply can't bear the cost. So, many people in our village have come to terms with this reality. In this society, it's better to live naturally. In the past, people valued money, but now everything is about money. Honest and simple rural folks really can't handle this. If they can't handle it, they avoid it, right? This kind of situation can't be forced. It's better to let it go. To take a step back, even if rural people are secretly wealthy, who can guarantee that an arranged marriage for their children will result in lifelong happiness? With the divorce rate so high nowadays, in the end, it's just empty joy.
The upcoming job market in China is poised to face its toughest season ever. Job hunting in the second half of 2024 will enter a hellish mode. Data shows that 10 million college students are about to graduate, signaling a further intensification of the job market competition. In addition to the graduating class of 2024, there are also graduates from the classes of 2022 and 2023 who are still unemployed, along with those currently unemployed, laid off, or displaced from their jobs. This makes the job market more challenging than ever before. While this may be seen as a positive development for businesses, as they can tap into a pool of young and energetic talent, it means increasingly fierce competition for job seekers. One college student told us that he had initially considered doing food delivery after losing his job, but when he tried to register on delivery platforms, he found that there were no available orders. After chatting with other delivery drivers, he learned that the food delivery market is now saturated. When they can't get orders, they just gather to play games to pass the time. Nowadays, Chinese society seems to be filled with disheartened young people and elderly folks singing and dancing in parks. What's happening?
It's quite rare, but this year the wedding industry has entered a slow season. Those outside the industry may not notice, but those of us in it know that the number of weddings during this year's May Day holiday has drastically decreased compared to previous years. Traditionally, the May Day and National Day holidays are peak wedding seasons, but this year, the number of weddings during the May Day holiday has plummeted. This trend is even spreading to rural areas, indicating that even young people in the countryside are becoming less inclined to marry. Recently, I had an experience that deeply affected me. Perhaps after hearing it, you will understand why even young people in rural areas are reluctant to get married. I know a young man who runs a barbershop. He is very down to earth and started learning his trade in his teens. After many years of hard work, he saved up some money and opened a barbershop in the county. In theory, with a house, a car, and his own business, finding a partner and starting a family should be a natural progression. However, in the past 2 years, it's clear he has become much more haggard and aged significantly. The reason lies in the challenges of finding a partner. He doesn't dare to pursue city girls because he feels self-conscious about being from a rural background, so his matchmaking efforts are focused on girls from his hometown. However, regardless of which girl he meets, they treat it like a business transaction, demanding a bride price of over 100,000 yuan before continuing the relationship. Even after paying this amount, it doesn't guarantee success. The girls act indifferently, choosing to engage or not as they please. This young man was exhausted by just 2 such experiences. Despite never going on a proper date, he spent a significant amount of money. Additionally, he had to pay for meals, trips, gifts, and other expenses, which not only cost money but also took time away from his business. In his 20s, he looks like he's in his 30s. He has a house, a car, and his own small business. While he's not wealthy, he's financially stable and has no major worries. Most importantly, he's hardworking and diligent. If he chooses not to marry, the money for the bride price could easily cover a down payment on a house in the county, with monthly mortgage payments of around 2,000 to 3,000 yuan. He would have enough left over each month for leisure activities like barbecue, drinking, and socializing. Of course, this is assuming his family doesn't pressure him into marriage. However, just one marriage could plunge his stable life into chaos. Beyond the bride price, he would have to buy a new house, pay for engagement gifts, choose a wedding date, and cover wedding expenses. These are just the beginning. It's foreseeable that he would struggle to recover from this financial pitfall if he has children. This pit only deepens. Naturally, his parents can't foresee these issues. They are in their 50s, still healthy, and can help for a few more years. But a typical rural family investing the efforts of 2 or 3 generations into an unsatisfactory marriage, what do you think the consequences would be? Some may argue this is an exception, but it is not. This is a widespread phenomenon. In the marriage market, men often need to marry down. Most men are at the lower levels of society, and women below them in socioeconomic status are generally less educated, less attractive, have poorer personalities, lower incomes, and come from worse family backgrounds. Any woman with any advantages would seek a partner of a higher socioeconomic status. This creates a vicious cycle where the poorer the family, the higher the cost of marriage. They will never rise above this in their lifetime. For women, marrying these men doesn't offer a path to a better life, so they aim to extract as much value as possible before marriage. For lower-class rural men, the only solution is to avoid entering this cycle in the first place. But is that possible? It requires overcoming centuries-old feudal traditions and deep-seated primal urges, which is extremely difficult. However, if you can achieve this, your quality of life will surpass most of your peers. What do you think? Feel free to leave a comment below and join the discussion. That's all for this video. If you enjoyed it, please like and subscribe. We will continue to provide you with genuine reports. Thanks again for watching, and see you next time.